Chapter 1006, There's Always Someone Better Than You. The existence of the exquisite pagoda was an absolute secret that only 6 people in the entire Everlasting Feast Hall knew about. Aside from Gu Yan and the loyal Ji Qimei, only he and Gu Yan's 3 disciples knew of its existence. Therefore, even though Qi Nan was a core member of the Everlasting Feast Hall and also loyal to him, he still couldn't tell her the existence of the exquisite pagoda, or at least not now. Qi Nan's smiling face vanished, replaced by a bit of veneration as she replied in a low voice, "Your subordinate accepts her mistake, boss." Knowing and admitting one's own mistakes is the best way to improve oneself, Qi Nan. "And the warning I gave you is for your own good," said Tang Xiu faintly. "We'll face a lot more problems in the future, and the more you know, the more you'll expose yourself to dangers. The most important thing for you is to cultivate with seriousness. Only by becoming stronger will you have the qualification to make me value you highly in the future. This subordinate has just broken through to the mid-stage of foundation establishment and won't be someone that can be neglected in the future. I'm sure I'm at the top of the list among all the core members of our Everlasting Feast Hall," said Qi Nan hurriedly. At her reply, a strange expression appeared on Tang Xiu's face as a look of sarcasm flashed in his eyes. Then, he said indifferently, "Hearing from your tone, you seem to think that reaching the mid-stage of foundation establishment is great? You think you're now among the best of all members, huh?" "This subordinate doesn't dare think so," said Qi Nan quickly. "Out of responsibility I have to remind you, among the less than 200 core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall at present, 3 of them have broken through the Golden Core stage, with 2 at the mid-stage of Golden Core, 19 have reached the late stage of Foundation Establishment, and 46 others are at the mid-stage of Foundation Establishment. You just broke through to the mid-stage of Foundation Establishment and just barely entered the list of the 46 people in this realm. Do you think you can regard yourself as one of the best among less than 200 people?" "What?" With disbelief evident on her face, Qi Nan gaped and was unable to utter anything for a long time. "I'm placed at 46th? She had been spending most of her time cultivating aside from her work and spent quite a fortune to buy a lot of cultivation resources from the Everlasting Feast Hall. She had done all she could and yet was still ranked at 46th? How is this possible?" As Tang Xiu walked toward outside, he spoke again, "What you just heard is the truth. You're ranked at 46th even at your cultivation stage among nearly 200 core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Combat experience and battle efficiency-wise, you can't even be ranked at 46th. Cultivation realm is not a measure of one's strength, for only those who frequent the edge of life and death and battle the best experts can be called true powerhouses. Aside from those who are in 9 Dragons Island and some who stayed in Jingmen Island, many others have experienced brutal battles and even some of our core members have fallen." As of now, Qi Nan had been completely shaken, for she never thought that enemies had appeared on 9 Dragons Island and even engaged in a frantic battle with her other comrades. It also never occurred to her that some of her brothers and sisters had died in battle. What exactly happened there? Only then did she feel embarrassed to be that conceited just because she had advanced to the mid-stage of Foundation Establishment. It turned out that rest had also been improving and many of them were likely more hardworking than her. "I was wrong, boss," said Qi Nan with an ashamed look as she lowered her head. Tang Xiu stopped walking and turned to look at her. Then, he lightly said, "We are relatively close since you have more contact with me, so you must remember that there's always someone better than you. The ultimate result of arrogance and conceitedness is finding yourself to keep being surpassed by others. In actuality, I think highly of you, and you will still have great achievements in the future as long as you're willing to work hard." "I'll definitely work harder for that, boss," replied Qi Nan firmly. Tang Xiu no longer talked. After they came to the parking lot, he just sat in the back seat as he looked at Qi Nan in the driver's seat and said, "Also, investigate a woman named Yang Yan. She's a fashion designer and has her own studio." "Understood," replied Qi Nan. She then started the car and headed towards the Everlasting Feast Hall headquarters. Paradise Club of Jingmen Island. The super-luxury cruise ship had quietly docked at the port. It was late at night, yet a lot of visitors still entered and exited the ship. Most of them were well-dressed with the bearing of successful people. 8 middle-aged men dressed in black suits were seen standing on both sides of the passage as they carefully examined all the guests entering and exiting. Donning a red evening gown and wearing a sparkling platinum necklace on her neck was Yang Yun. A charming smile was on her face as she checked the membership card of the guests coming in. "Hello, could you please show me your membership card?" Still smiling, she looked at the female whose eyes always looked evasive and seemed to be in a tight corner. The female whose name was Yang Yen touched the corner of her dress with her fingers. She hesitated for a moment and then asked, "Dining in the Paradise Club needs a membership card?" "I know a waiter here, he's my brother. Could you let me pass? I need to see him." Yang Yun slightly knitted her brows and faintly said, "I'm sorry. I can't let you in if you don't have a membership card. If you want to find your brother, you can call him. Tell him to come outside to see you." "I already called him, but my call didn't get through," replied Yang Yen quickly. "What's your brother's name?" asked Yang Yun. "Yang Fei," answered Yang Yen. Yang Yun looked at the middle-aged man on the side and said in a deep voice, "Go inside and ask whether we have a waiter named Yang Fine in our club. Bring him here if there is." "All right." The sturdy middle-aged man replied and strode towards the luxury liner. A few minutes later, he came back with a sleepy young man. When they arrived at the entrance, the youth looked surprised as he strode towards Yang Yen and said, "Why are you here, sis? Didn't I tell you that you can't come to disturb me at work unless there's something important?" Yang Yen shot a glance at Yang Yun and seemed to hesitate to speak. Yang Yun, who had just checked the membership of several guests, noticed Yang Yan's expression and immediately said, "You can go to a farther place if your conversation is inconvenient for outsiders. However, the liner will set sail in half an hour and I don't want any personal matters interferes with your work here as a waiter." "I understand, General Manager," replied Yang Fei quickly. After a short while, Yang Yen and Yang Fei came to a spot 10 meters away from the entrance. The latter wore a curious look and asked in a low voice, "What's the matter, sis? Why did you come here?" "Little Fei, you have to hurry and quit your work here," said Yang Yen bitterly. "We must immediately leave for Beijing. I've called my classmate. We'll stay in her place for some time while making our plans." "Why must we go to the capital, sis?" asked Yang Fei, looking confused. "I just offended someone and he's a powerful man in Jingmen Island. They are chasing me now and they should be here soon to get me through you," explained Yang Yen. "That's why we must leave Jingmen Island first. We must stay in Beijing for some time until things have cooled down. We'll come back in secret later to sell our property since this place is no longer suitable for us to live." Yang Fei's complexion turned pale and he quickly asked, "Who is it you've offended, sis? What exactly happened? Please tell me clearly." "I offended the stud farm's owner in the countryside in order to save my close friend," said Yang Yen with a bitter smile. "You and I used to go to that race course for horse riding, so you should know the owner, Gu Fugue. He's a powerful man here. Even if his palm can't cover the heaven, it's easy for him to deal with people like us. Also, there's still someone behind Guafugue who is likely much bigger than him. That's why we must run away to Beijing to lie low until things cool down." The sudden news scared Yang Fei so much that a chill ran down his back. He naturally knew who Guafugue was. What he knew about this man was even more than his sister. On the surface, Guafugue was just a countryside stud farm's owner. However, he controlled more than 10 casinos, a few 5-star hotels, and was one of the major money-laundering players in Jingmen Island. To think that his sister had caused such big trouble by offending this man was something Yang Fei could not imagine. Guafugue was infamous for being an extremely ruthless man in Jingmen Island, and those who offended him hardly ended up in a good ending. And yet there was still a much powerful person behind him? This was simply a disaster for life. Wait here for me, sis. I'll see the manager and tell her that I'm resigning. We'll then leave Jingmen Island as fast as possible, said Yang Fei in a deep voice. Yang Yan nodded wordlessly and watched the back of his brother walking into the distance while guilt filled her heart. Their parents passed away 5 years ago, and they had been living and sharing hardship together since. Although she worked to meet ends meet and support her younger brother until he graduated from university, he never asked her a dime since and often bought her gifts with his salary. And yet, he got implicated by her this time. Yang Fei strode to the ship's boarding entrance. As he saw Yang Yun, he hesitated for a moment before opening his mouth. I want to resign, General Manager. And your reason? Asked Yang Yun indifferently. My older sister has offended someone, so we must leave Jingmen Island immediately, answered Yang Fei with a bitter face. A look of surprise was cast on Yang Yun's face and she asked again, offended someone? Can you tell me who the person is? Yang Fei also knew the Paradise Club's background and the identity of Yang Yun. After thinking deeply for a short while, he whispered, it's Gua Fugue. Chapter 1007, Getting Snatched from the Jaws of Death. As a member of the Ouyang family of Jingmen Island and one that was assigned as the general manager of Paradise Club, Yang Yun naturally had extraordinary status and identity. Even the princess of the Ouyangs, Lulu, must call her elder cousin. It was just natural that she knew Gua Fugue's identity. Still, she couldn't imagine how would this waiter's sister had the guts to provoke Gua Fugue. After being silent for a few seconds, Yang Yun slowly said, your sister has offended Gua Fugue and has been forced to hide. But you're one of Paradise Club's people, so you don't need to fear any retaliation from him. I can't, General Manager. Yang Fei shook his head and said, Big Sis is the only relative I have left. There's no way I can leave her alone. Please approve my resignation. Hey. Yang Yun sighed. Then I agree since you insist on leaving. Go inside and hand over your resignation then. Suddenly, she stopped talking and a quaint expression appeared on her face. She then shook her head and sighed again. I think it's impossible for you to leave now. There are at least 10 of Gua Fugue's men in the surroundings and they are quite powerful hunting dogs. Even that ruthless earth mole person came. Yang Fei immediately turned his head and found his sister Yang Yan looking panicked, running toward him. He glanced around and saw that a few figures had appeared in the illuminated spot. 2 men were walking behind his sister with seething killing intent. Little Fei, leave quickly. Yang Yan frantically pulled out a fruit knife from his bag and hurriedly called out while running. I can't, sis. Yang Fei shook his head and said, be it a fortune or misfortune, we can't avoid the calamity if it's meant to come. But rest assured for I will never let them harm you as long as I'm still standing. General Manager, I'm grateful for your agreeing to my resignation. I'm not Paradise Club staff now. I hope that we siblings won't cause trouble for you. Just Gua Fugue alone is not enough to bring trouble to me, Yang Yun disdainfully said. But what about you? Have you clearly thought about it? Once you leave Paradise Club, the next thing awaits you is only death that will have nothing to do with us. For a moment, Yang Fei was silent, before he replied with a bitter face, I understand about the custom, General Manager. Whether I live or die today, it's not related to you anymore. Having said that, he snatched the fruit knife in Yang Yan's hand and pulled her behind him as he coldly watched the 2 men striding towards them. Watching his actions, Yang Yun somehow felt a bit regretful. She shook her head and inwardly sighed. She appreciated Yang Fei's courage and uprightness, but her Ouyang family and Gua Fugue had never interfered with each other and she didn't want to cause any conflict between them, even though her side was not afraid of him. Ms. Ouyang. A black-suited middle-aged man with a scar on his face only glanced at Yang Yan and Yang Fei before greeting her a bit respectfully. Earth Mole, you guys rarely show up in the middle of the night for no reason, replied Yang Yun smilingly. You brought so many people here today, do you want to provoke us or is there something else? Ms. Yang is mistaken. I dare not bring my men to provoke you even if I got more courage. The scar-faced man shook his head and said, I came here for this bitch. She has injured our brothers, so I'll take her back and hand her over to our boss. Looking at her, she doesn't have any strength to even unfeather a chicken, how would she able to cause any harm to your people? Aren't you mistaken about something here? Asked Yang Yun with a smile. We've investigated it clearly, Ms. Yang. She's the one who has injured one of our brothers, and cruelly at that. The scar-faced man shook his head and said, my brother is now being hospitalized and probably will have to live in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Is she one of your people? With a look of surprise, Yang Yun gazed at Yang Yen before shaking her head. She isn't related to my Ouyang clan at all, and I won't meddle in the affairs between you all. But know it well, this place belongs to the Ouyangs. Please leave if you must resolve your private conflict. The scar-faced man nodded and shot a grim look at Yang Fei, coldly saying, you must be Yang Fei, Yang Yan's younger brother, right, kid? We've investigated you siblings. Please follow us now. Yang Fei took a deep breath as his hand reached out to grab Yang Yan's hand, saying in a deep voice, all right, we'll go with you. Yang Yun just looked at their backs as they left. She secretly shook her head since she was well aware that once Yang Yan and Yang Fei left with this Earth Mole fella, it was nearly impossible for them to survive. However, she had seen too many of such a death struggles to count ever since she took over the Paradise Club, and couldn't care less to involve herself in this matter. Tut, tut, tut. Text incoming sounds suddenly rang from her mobile phone. As she took it out and opened the MMS, a surprised look was suddenly cast on her beautiful face, because the photo on the message was Yang Yan who just left before. It's strange really. She muttered and was about to dial the number that sent the MMS when her phone suddenly rang. It was exactly the number that just sent the MMS. What's the matter? Asked Yang Yun. After a short while listening, she hung up and shouted an order, stop them immediately. Take the woman named Yang Yan and bring her to me. In a flash, 8 stalwart men rushed toward the people who brought Yang Yan and Yang Fei and were just tens of meters away. Upon seeing that they were blocked off, the scar-faced man pulled out a Mitsubishi Army knife and watched Yang Yun approaching step by step with his snake-like eyes. Ms. Yang, what's the meaning of this? While shaking the mobile phone in her hand, Yang Yun wore a helpless expression as she replied, I didn't want to meddle in your business before, but I got a call from the seniors in the clan to find her, so I have no choice but to take action. She then pointed at Yang Yan. The scar-faced man frowned and asked, what did she do? Did she also provoke your Ouyang family? I don't think I need to explain to you about what she did, do I? Yang Yun shook her head and said, you just need to know that she's very important to me since someone has asked my Ouyang family to guarantee her safety. Well, off you go fellas. Ms. Yang. Are you saying you want to go against our custom? Roared the scar-faced man. She has harmed my brother and my boss has commanded me to capture her, yet you actually want to protect her? Is it worth it to go to such lengths to make my boss unhappy? Why wouldn't I dare to make your boss unhappy, huh? Yang Yun's complexion turned cold and she sneered at the man. Even if we must tear all decorum with your boss, what about it? Do you think the Ouyang family fears Guafugue and can do nothing to him? Scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The scar-faced man was furious inwardly, yet he suppressed all the anger deep down since he knew Yang Yun's identity. He turned to look at Yang Yan and said in a heavy voice, you're damned, bitch. You're lucky the Ouyang is protecting you. But just wait and hope they can protect you forever, if not, Yang Yan and Yang Fei had been despairing a moment ago, as only a tragic end waited for them after they fell into Guafugue's hands. Never did they ever expect that Yang Yun would suddenly intervene. Yang Yan watched the scar-faced man leave with the rest. Only fader their figures disappeared did she retract her vision. She then turned to look at Yang Yun, looking somewhat uneasy as she spoke. Ms. Yang, thank you. You don't need to thank me. I just got a call that someone is looking for you. I've sent the message back that I've found you and I believe that some people will come over soon, said Yang Yun vaguely. Anyway, you're to wait here until they come to fetch you, so I won't have anything to do with you anymore. Who are these people? Asked Yang Yan hurriedly. I don't know either. Yang Yun shook her head. On the coastal road, a black car speedily moved towards the Everlasting Feast Hall's headquarters. The one who was driving it, Chi Nan, suddenly had her expression shift. She put on her earphones and picked up the call. After listening to the caller and conversed for a few moments, she said, "Thank you. Please wait for a moment." She took away the earphones afterward and spoke. The woman has been found, boss. She's in the Bay Port and had been caught by her enemy just now. I sent the news that we're searching for her half an hour ago, and the Ouyang's intelligence division kinda helped us greatly this time. The Bay Port. Tang Xiu knitted his brows and asked, how far is it from here to the Bay Port? Not far, about 10 minutes driving, answered Chi Nan. Then head to the Bay Port first, ordered Tang Xiu. Roger that. 10 minutes later, they arrived at Bay Port. Tang Xiu saw through the window and had already seen the situation in the surroundings. His attention was especially focused on Yang Yan, who stood next to Yang Yun. He could recognize her at a glance. Yang Yun led four middle-aged men, approaching the car in strides. She wanted to know what kind of big shot could move the person in charge of the Ouyang's intel division to help him. After Mod got out of the car, he indifferently glanced around and then walked to the back to open the rear door. An astonished look appeared on Yang Yun's face upon seeing Tang Xiu come out of the car. Isn't it Tang Xiu? The owner of Magnificent Tang Corporation and the future son-in-law of the Ouyang family? How could it be him? She strode a few steps towards Tang Xiu's and smilingly said, "Hello, Mr. Tang. I'm Yang Yun, Lulu's older cousin." Tang Xiu shook hands with her and smiled. "Nice to meet you, Sister Yun. It seems I've troubled you this time." At his words, Yang Yun shook her head and smiled. "Not really. Today's incident is just an accident. Yet I never thought that the person who's looking for Yang Yan was actually you, though. I was entrusted to find and help a woman named Yang Yan by someone," said Tang Xiu with a chuckle. "Also, sis you. You're Lulu's older cousin, so we're related. Please don't call me Mr. Tang. Just call me Tang Xiu directly." Chapter 1008, a crisp yet a bit upset feeling. "Well, I'll take the liberty since we're now relatives, then," replied Yang Yun smilingly. "Anyway, Yang Yan has provoked some troubles you can see from the people in the surroundings. They are Jingmen Island's locals, Guafugue's men. They only scattered under my threats and are waiting around, hoping to seize a chance to take Yang Yan and her younger brother, Yang Fei." Tang Xiu glanced at the dimly lit area dozens of meters away from them, asking with a curious face, "Who is this Guafugue fella?" "He's a quite capable man in Jingmen Island and has a lot of shady business here," answered Yang Yun. "Though my Ouyang family never put him in our eye." "Then just ignore him since he's only small fry," said Tang Xiu smilingly. "Anyway, I'll send someone to warn this Guafugue later. Sis Yun, I just came back from abroad and still have many things to do. I'll take Yang Yan away, but I'll be sure to thank you later should the opportunity come." "Nah. No need to thank me. Just treat my little sis well, I'll already be satisfied if you do that," replied Yang Yun smilingly. "Lulu is my woman, so of course I must treat her well." "You can rest assured about that, Sis Yun," said Tang Xiu with a smile. Yang Yun nodded with a smile in response. Tang Xiu strode towards Yang Yan and then inquired, Are you Yang Yan, Zhuo Qing's best friend? Yang Yan's pupil instantly shrunk and she retreated a step. With a vigilant face, she asked, "Who are you? How do you know Zhuo Qing? You don't need to be afraid of me. I and Zhuo Qing can be called friends. She bade me to tell you that she has arrived safely with her 2 children in Thailand. They are now safe under her father's protection. But she believed that you, who helped her flee China, must have provoked the Huang. Even though Huang has written off the enmity they had with the Zhuo Qing was sure that you'd be in trouble, so she asked me to come over and help you out. She also asked me to ask you whether you're willing to leave for Thailand." "Are you really Zhuo Qing's friend?" asked Yang Yan in astonishment. "I don't think there's a need for me to lie, right?" Tang Xiu nodded. "Your name is Yang Yan, right? I think you should know about my Ouyang family, right? Tang Xiu is the son-in-law of my family. He's my little cousin, Ouyang Lulu's man, and what he said is the truth. You don't have anything that forces him to deceive you." "Ouyang Lulu? The infamous devilish woman of Jingmen Island? This handsome young man is actually her man?" A feverish expression suddenly appeared on Yang Fei's face as he respectfully spoke. "I'm really happy to see you again, Mr. Tang. Big sis, I can vouch that Mr. Tang is really the Ouyang's Ms. Lulu's boyfriend. I've seen him in the Paradise Club before and heard many of his legendary feats." Cough, cough. Yang Fei's vouch left Tang Xiu between laughs and tears as he looked at this young man. "What the hell is this about me being a legend? How can there be any legendary stories about me?" He shook his head and smilingly asked, "And you are?" "Hello, Mr. Tang. My name is Yang Fei. I was a waiter in the Paradise Club prior to this." "Yang Yan is my big sister, my blood sister," answered Yang Fei. "I see." Tang Xiu finally understood and smilingly said, "Well, I have to advise your sister and you to leave Jingmen Island earlier, though. Although I'll send some men to warn Guofugue, the lackeys are much troublesome to deal with than their boss. I'm sure he'll immediately send his men to pester you again whenever I don't pay attention. That would be quite troublesome." Yang Fei hesitant before nodding. "Mr. Tang is right, big sis. We must indeed leave Jingmen Island. I know some facts about Guofugue. He's a very ruthless man and is also infamous for taking revenge over the slightest offense. Leaving for Thailand is indeed the best and only choice we have." Yang Yan nodded repeatedly. She and her brother had gone through such a turbulent and winding journey. Now that they had a chance to guarantee their safety, she thanked heaven for the sudden emergence of their savior, and she'd agree regardless of what Tang Xiu told them to do. After saying goodbye to Ouyang Yun, Tang Xiu brought the siblings to his car. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Chi Nan, assign some men to escort them to Thailand, precisely Bangkok. I don't want any mishap to happen on the journey. Also, you are to go and see Guofugue in person. Warn him to never pester Yang Yan again in the future." "What if he is adamant to make trouble for Miss Yang, boss?" asked Chi Nan. "If he refuses, then there's no need for him to set his foot in Jingmen Island ever again," said Tang Xiu indifferently. "Go and deal with it fast so you can go back earlier to the headquarters." Chi Nan nodded and suddenly asked again, "Boss, that's the only car for you, so?" "It's fine. Don't worry about it. Just go," Tang Xiu ordered with a light smile. After her departure, Tang Xiu walked back to Ouyang Yun and asked, "Sis Yun, can you lend me a car? I still got something important, so I want to deal with it quickly. It's just a minor matter. I'll immediately tell someone to bring you one." Ouyang Yun smilingly replied, "Anyway, I just called my cousin and told him that you are here. Whether you want to wait for him, he'll be here soon." "Her cousin?" Tang Xiu asked again, "Who's this cousin of yours? Is it Ouyang Lei?"
"Yeah,
"It's him," replied Ouyang Yun smilingly. He was born 4 days earlier than me, so I call him cousin. Tang Xiu pondered for a moment and nodded. All right. I'll wait for him for a while since he's coming over. Also, this reminded me of something. Wasn't this Paradise Club the one Lulu managed before? How is it still under the Ouyang's management? Ah, Lulu did sell this luxurious cruise ship, but the buyer was one of the Ouyang family's members, answered Ouyang Yun with a smile. You know, Lulu said that she'd be stuck with her man and be contented with him regardless of his lot no matter what happens. She has decided to be with you, so she kinda rushed to make sure to be out of touch with the family. You see, Uncle has been kinda lamenting, wondering why his daughter ran away like that. She hasn't gotten married yet, but she has begun to carry out her plan to manage the household of her future husband. Cough, cough. Tang Xiu could only cough twice to cover up his awkwardness. But as he recalled everything Ouyang Lulu had done, he realized the truthfulness of what Ouyang Yun just said. Whenever he was with Lulu, the girl had always been calculating to figure out how many things and how much her Ouyang family would need to prepare the dowry for her in the future. Half an hour passed by. Tang Xiu was now sitting in the most luxurious hall of the Paradise Club while chatting with Ouyang Yun, waiting for Ouyang Lei to arrive. Bang! The hall's door was thrust hard from the outside as the burly Ouyang Lei strode in a rush into the room. As he saw Tang Xiu, he immediately showed a pleasantly surprised face and opened his arms, shouting, "Wow, it's really you, future bro-in-law. I thought the Intel director pranked me when he told me you were here." It's been 6 months since the last time we met, right? I never thought you'd be so much more handsome now. Tang Xiu couldn't help but burst into laughter and gave him a big hug. After the hug, he smilingly said, "It's so late and you haven't slept yet, Brother Lei. Anyway, I heard that you've gradually taken over the Ouyang family's affairs recently. I believe you're going to be the new patriarch of the Ouyang family soon, no?" "Nah. That old man of mine's still hale and vigorous. He's even much stronger than me nowadays." Ouyang Lei waved and smilingly said, "No way I'll be the Ouyang patriarch anytime soon." "Then, what about you yourself, huh? Your business is doing so well, and I can see your power and influence are getting bigger by the day. Whenever I called Lulu, she always said you're always busy and doesn't have much time to accompany her. I don't deny that. I always have some things that need to be dealt with." Tang Xiu smilingly replied, "But you know her. She always oppresses me and makes me promise to accompany her for a while after some time. Anyways, what about you? Lulu told me that you just found your sweetheart? So, when will you get married? You can expect to get a lavish gift from me by then." Ouyang Lei grinned and said, "Soon. Maybe by the end of this year. Anyway, why don't you just give me the gift first?" His response left Tang Xiu between laughs and tears. "What the hell are you asking the gift first for? You haven't gotten married yet. But I do have some good things I want to gift you, though." Having said that, Tang Xiu took a porcelain bottle from his interspatial ring and handed it over to Ouyang Lei. "There are 10 drops of body tempering liquid in it. Drop 1 into the bathtub and soak yourself in it. The process will be a bit painful, but it will be very beneficial to your physique. Keep in mind, the longer you soak yourself, the bigger the benefits you can get. Also, this is a manual for a tempering physique that should be suitable for your cultivation." Joy and surprise covered Ouyang Lei's face, and he almost rushed to grab the porcelain bottle and manual. He looked like he would never put it down as he fiddled with them. He then nodded and said, "Well, my little sis can find such a husband like you is truly a blessing, bro-in-law. Anyway, I heard you've seen my mom, though. Did she make you bleed?" Ugh. Tang Xiu's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. He recalled the meeting he had with his profiteer mother-in-law previously, and he did get fleeced by her literally. Looking at the excited Ouyang Lei, Tang Xiu rolled his eyes and grinningly said, "Well, are you interested in becoming a true expert, Brother Lei? Like those who can fly to the roof, vault over the walls, and use a leaf to injure their opponents?" Ouyang Lei rolled his eyes, but he grinned and replied back, "I already can do all that. Don't look down on me, dude. I can be regarded as an expert myself now. I just challenged a martial art expert at the Grandmaster level recently and I only needed a dozen moves to beat him." Tang Xiu instantly understood that his profiteer mother-in-law must have taught Ouyang Lei the cultivation art manual he gave her. Tang Xiu himself was just a bit upset upon finding a bit shameful conduct from her, but he didn't show it on the surface and spoke in a low voice, "Brother Lei, you've probably learned something else about me, haven't you? But one must seize every opportunity he encounters to become stronger. So now, I'm giving you a chance. Do you want to be trained by my men? I can guarantee that you'll be 10 times stronger or even more after the training." "More than 10 times stronger? Are you kidding me?" exclaimed Ouyang Lei. "No way, I'll refuse that. I'll do everything you tell me to as long as I can become stronger." Tang Xiu clapped and smilingly said, "Well, you got the desire to be much better and stronger, huh? Then, put away everything you got at hand and hand them over to someone else. I'll send you to the training place after that." Chapter 1009, Tang Xiu's Plan. While looking at Ouyang Lei, who was full of excitement, Tang Xiu secretly laughed inwardly. This guy had just leaped into the qi refining stage that was even much weaker than the first batch of homeless children's cultivation level. Tang Xiu could imagine a very interesting scene after he sent this guy to train with the children he had been fostering on Clam Island. "It's getting late. It's time for me to go back and rest." "No rush, brother. I still got something to tell you," said Ouyang Lei quickly. "Pray tell," replied Tang Xiu. "My family just got a treasure recently, but all my relatives can't figure out what it is. We have even invited various domestic antique experts and famous collectors, yet none of them managed to get a clue. There were also some famous figures from the occult sect who tried to examine it but to no avail." "Can you help me identify it?" asked Ouyang Lei. "Why are you so sure to call it a treasure even though you can't identify it?" asked Tang Xiu with a surprised face. "I don't know what it is, but that thing is definitely a treasure. I just know it." Ouyang Lei proudly said, "Do you know what material it's made from?" "The scientists said that it was made from some alien meteorite or something. Moreover, it's not some kind of ordinary meteorite but one that contains rich energy substances." "Is it as in a lump meteorite or what?" asked Tang Xiu. "Naturally not, dude." Ouyang Lei shook his head and said, "It's an oval-shaped container with many patterns etched on it, kinda similar to some bizarre runes or something. Unfortunately, even the most famous historian in China couldn't figure out the content of those runes." Tang Xiu's curiosity perked up and he asked, "Where's it?" "Let me take a look at it." Ouyang Lei said, "It's stored in my family's vault." "Let's head to my house then, shall we?" Tang Xiu slightly furrowed his brows since he'd rather not go to the Ouyangs. "Lulu may have become my woman, yet I couldn't give status nor marry her. Wouldn't it be too embarrassing if I were to visit them with my son-in-law status?" He pondered for a moment and then said, "Brother Lei, I still got some important things to do in the Everlasting Feast Hall, so I gotta go there first. Also, it's so late at night and it's kinda inappropriate to visit your family home at this time, no? How about you bring that treasure to the Everlasting Feast Hall? I'm gonna deal with my things first and will be waiting for you there afterward, how about it?" Ouyang Lei gave it a thought. It was indeed inappropriate for Tang Xiu to follow him to his family's residence in the middle of the night. Thus, he nodded and said, "Well, I'm fine with that. Then, I'll go to the Everlasting Feast Hall with that treasure later." At the countryside stud farm. In a Western-styled villa, Guo was sleeping soundly with two fair-skinned pretty girls like kittens in his arms. Their white thighs and arms were like octopus tentacles that wrapped around his body. Ring, ring, ring. The rapid ringtone of his mobile phone broke the silence amid the darkness and woke Guafugue up. A scowl appeared on his face as he shoved the two girls' limbs. Then, he grabbed the phone on the bedside table and looked at the caller. After picking it up, he angrily cursed. Do you fucking wanna die, Hao Zi? It's so late at night, for fuck's sake. Don't you already know I hate to be disturbed when sleeping? Things went wrong, boss, the voice from the phone replied in a low voice. Guafugue looked vacant for a moment. He turned to look at the two girls sitting up with blurry and dazed eyes. Then, got out of bed and walked to the window, asking in a low voice, what happened? We caught Yang Yan along with Yang Fei, her younger brother, in the bay port where the Ouyang's luxurious cruiser is docked, boss. But the Paradise Club's general manager, Ouyang Yun, intervened all of a sudden and took them back by force. We're still here, but Ouyang Yun seems to have given them to someone, replied the low voice from the phone again. The Ouyang's Ouyang Yun? A cold light flashed in Guafugue's eyes. He used to fear the Ouyangs since this family was one of the most powerful families in Jingmen Island with a deep background. Yet now, he no longer feared them and just dreaded them at most. The Huang family from the Fukong province was his backer, as his sister married to a prominent junior of the Huangs last year, so he and the Huangs were now relatives. Moreover, sending his men to chase Yang Yan was also in line with the Huang family's intention, and they wouldn't stay still if the Ouyangs were to deal with him. Where are they now? They have been taken away. I sent some men to follow and snatch them halfway, but the other party has outstanding counter-detection measures and shook us off after detecting our tracks. I brought some men back to the bay port to keep tabs on the Ouyangs and the person who brought the Yang siblings away. Trash. Wait for me there. I'll be over shortly. Guafugue cursed coldly. But boss, Ouyang Lei just came and entered the Paradise Club. If you come here in person, in case. Ouyang Lei? Why did he go over? What exactly is the identity of the person who wants to save the Yang siblings? To think that he can make Ouyang Lei come over in the middle of the night? Could it be that his background is much more powerful than the Ouyangs? As Guafugue fell into silence and then was about to speak, the voice came out of the phone again suddenly. Boss, Ouyang Lei just came out with a young man. They are going to leave the Paradise Club from the looks of it. What should I do? Should we follow the young man? Track them and figure out who they are. Acknowledged. Guafugue hung up the phone. His sleepiness had completely disappeared, but his eyes were glittering with a thoughtful look, silently analyzing the key issues of this matter. He was instructed by the Huang patriarch to find and chase Sui Qing. In the end, this woman had been able to leave Jingmen Island secretly with Yang Yan's help, making him fail to accomplish the Huang family's request, thus smearing his face towards the Huang family's patriarch. This was the cause of this hatred for Yang Yan, since she was the one who helped Sui Qing. Thus, he sent his men to investigate her identity and background. He also sent many men to chase and kill her. Unfortunately, that cunning woman was able to escape and they had not been able to capture her even after several days. At 3:30 in the morning, Tang Xiu and Moa rushed to the Everlasting Feast Hall's headquarters. Most of the members had left for Nine Dragons Island, so there were only a dozen members staying here, although Gu Xiaoxue had returned back ahead of time. You're staying here, all. As they came to the parking lot, Tang Xiu issued an order and walked towards the beach. Just as he arrived there, he saw Gu Xiaoxue sitting cross-legged in cultivation on a lone boat on the sea under the starlight. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile and floated upward, appearing on the boat's bow in a flash. Grand Master, called out Gu Xiaoxue immediately with a pleasantly surprised look. So diligent. That's great. Tang Xiu nodded at her and said, however, Tang Guang and Tang An are now stronger than you, so you need to work harder to advance to the late stage of Golden Core earlier. I'll work harder, Grand Master. Gu Xiaoxuan nodded. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile again and looked at the sea in front. He immediately cast a secret art as a stream of qi entered the sea surface. In but a moment, the sea split and created a passageway. A white-clad Gu Yan then jumped out lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of Tang Xiu. Master. Gu Yan seemed like a young girl as she let out crisp laughter and swiftly held Tang Xiu's arm. Get prepared to leave this place, said Tang Xiu smilingly. I've already arranged an array in the waters near Nine Dragons Island suitable for the exquisite pagoda. Are you also going to stay in Nine Dragons Island in the future, Master? Asked Gu Yan with a smile. I still got a lot of things to do, so I can't stay in Nine Dragons Island for the time being. Tang Xiu shook his head. But I'll be there anytime soon to remove all the enemies who dare eye the island. They are nothing but insects to me, Master. Just tell who the enemies are. I can kill them easily, Gu Yan chuckled and replied lightly. I can't let you do that. Earth is a too peaceful place to live nowadays, and rather unsuitable to train our talents. Tang Xiu shook his head. I want our men to deal with the enemies and survive on the border of life and death. Those who survive will have the qualifications to follow us in the future. As you wish, Master, replied Gu Yan smilingly. Tang Xiu stretched his hand to stroke her long black hair and said with a smile, anyways, I'm going to found a sect there and am thinking of a name. Do you have any opinions about it? Why do you have to ask, Master? All Yan has is all yours, said Gu Yan bluntly. Besides, I found the everlasting feast hall and trained a group of talents to help me find you as the main purpose. Now that I've found you, they mean nothing much to me. No. They are our people, Yan. Tang Xiu shook his head and said, I know what you think, but you must remember something. You raised them up and taught them. They are equal to family now. You also know what identity I once had. And yet I neglected one aspect, the more people we have, the more powerful we are. If I had followers who followed me all the way to the apex all around me back then, those bastards wouldn't have had any chance to scheme against me. His statement made Gu Yan's eyes glitter with a thoughtful look as she silently nodded and said, I'll keep your words in mind, Master. Tang Xiu looked up at the starry sky. His deep eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the layers of clouds and shoot through space, as if he was seeing the magnificent scenes of the vast immortal world, gazing at his enemies who also kept progressing and advancing. And yet, there was no dread nor fear in his heart. He was once a supreme in the immortal world and possessed millenniums of knowledge as well as the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, as his greatest advantage, the top cultivation art of the demon god. He once spent 8,000 years to reach supremacy. He was confident he would only need a shorter time to make a comeback now. Chapter 1010, Knocked Out by a Single Blow. The law of survival in the immortal world was extraordinarily brutal and only the strongest would survive. One must have a big background if one wanted to get ahead in that world, or could only resign to his fate. It was rather fortunate that Tang Xiu had nothing left to lose when he left that world. Although he couldn't contact his followers and was unable to inform them that he was still alive, he still had his disciple, Gu Yan. She may be injured and her cultivation level had dropped to the point where she was like a new immortal, but once she returned to the immortal world, she would be able to restore her power at an extremely fast pace. It must be noted that Gu Yan's cultivation had reached the perfected golden immortal stage before she came to Earth, and nearly reached supremacy stage, yet she was still a force to be reckoned with there. No supreme in the immortal world could underestimate her power. Yan, do you think you can refine the nascent shattering pill now? Asked Tang Xiu after shifting his eyes to Gu Yan. Gu Yan hesitated but still replied, not only that pill, but I think I can also refine immortal pills now, Master. It's just that Earth is scarce on the main alchemy materials needed to concoct the nascent shattering pill. I only note that this planet has soul-collapsing grass and nothing else, so it's very difficult to refine nascent shattering pills here. You don't need to worry about alchemy materials. I'll solve this problem. Tang Xiu said, I'm also thinking about a set of rules since we're going back there in the future. Those who are eligible to follow us must have enough strength. Hence, those who haven't reached the spirit formation stage are not eligible to leave with us. Don't you think the limit is a bit low, Master? Asked Gu Yan in hesitation. We can find people at the spirit formation stage literally everywhere in the immortal world, yet they are but weak people there. In my opinion, it's best to set the limit at the Great Ascension stage. Any lower than that is not eligible to follow us. Not really. Tang Xiu shook his head and said, You're also well aware of the cultivation environment on Earth, Yen. The environment here is harsh and resources are also scarce. Advancing to the Great Ascension stage is very difficult here. Even I myself dare not to say that I can advance and compete with experts at this cultivation realm. That's why I think the limit at spirit formation stage is already enough. We can find a blessed land when we return to the immortal world. After gathering massive cultivation resources there, I believe we can stimulate their potential to the limits, which I reckon will make their cultivation advance enormously. I'm sure they can break through the immortal stage in 100 years. Gu Yan thought about it and approved Tang Xiu's point. She then nodded and said, You can rest assured, Master. I can refine a lot of nascent shattering pills as long as there are enough ingredients. With that pill, I believe it won't be long for us to have a large number of nascent soul stage experts. At the countryside stud farm, dozens of burly men had gathered outside the Western-styled villa, and Guofugue, whose face was full of murderous intent, came out of the villa followed by two strong men. He glanced around at the group of his men indifferently and began speaking in a deep voice, Men. You must have heard of a restaurant called Everlasting Feast Hall. This restaurant is now sheltering the murderer who has injured our brothers, so the owner of this restaurant must die. You're going with me to force them to hand over the culprit and ask for justice, or we'll teach them a hard lesson. Teach them a lesson. The tens of strong men raised their fists and roared aggressively. Guofugue nodded happily and strode towards the row of cars nearby. After getting on the cars fast, the convoy headed to the Everlasting Feast Hall's headquarters. Sitting on the back seat, Guofugue's eyes glittered. He had been to the Everlasting Feast Hall several times. The dishes there were really good, and it was also a good place for recreation. But what he remembered the most was its celestial maiden-like little boss, Gu Xiaoxue. He had seen a lot of beauties in his life, but only a handful of them could compare to such a peerless beauty like Gu Xiaoxue. There were only two stunning beauties in the entirety of Jingmen Island, one of whom was Gu Xiaoxue and the other was the princess of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Lulu. He didn't dare to harbor any thoughts toward the latter since he was afraid that the Ouyangs would go all out to exterminate him. Gu Xiaoxue, however, was a different case as she seemed to have no background and had nothing to be feared of aside from the number of security guards in the Everlasting Feast Hall. At the parking lot of the Everlasting Feast Hall, Mo Ao was leaning on the car while clamping a cigarette. He looked to be deep in thought. He was well aware that the Everlasting Feast Hall had many secrets, the biggest of which should the boss, Gu Yan. He didn't know much about her even though she had literally raised him up and taught him some skills. Be it her origins, age, or how powerful she was, he practically knew nothing about all that. Yet he knew that boss Gu Yan was equal to his mother, his closest relatives, while Tang Xiu was a man he admired the most and served with absolute loyalty. Guang, En, and Gu Xiaoxue have all broken through to the Golden Core stage. The three of them should be strongest experts in the entirety of the Everlasting Feast Hall. But my cultivation only reaches the late stage of foundation establishment. I may be at the front of the list among all members here, yet it's still far from what I want it to be. I know the two bosses have an extremely fearsome origin since they are related to the existence of another plane. Let's not say anything about boss Gu Yan, just boss Tang Xiu's strength advancement is way too fast. If I can't advance to the Golden Core stage in a short time, I'll become further and further away from him and may lose the opportunity to keep following him in the future. I must become stronger, much stronger. Tangguang, Tangin, and Gu Xiaoxue are stronger than me since they started cultivating earlier. But I don't think my talent and efforts are inferior to them. Mo tightly gripped his fists and a resolute look filled his eyes. Suddenly, his complexion shifted slightly as he looked at the flickering figure that moved lightning fast towards him. Then he asked, "What's the matter?" "Some people have been following you and boss, but they have yet to enter our manor and are just lingering in the vicinity," reported the figure. Mo furrowed his brows and said in a cold voice, "Let's have a look at them. They should be experts since they can track us and come here while avoiding our detection." A few minutes later, at the road junction outside the Everlasting Feast Hall was a plot of land full of lush trees and vegetation. Shielded by the darkness and hiding in the thick patch of bushes was the scar-faced man Lu Hao, who was like a cat that quietly observed the interior of the Everlasting Feast Hall with binoculars in hands. At this time, he had observed most parts of the site clearly. By his side were three lean young men tightly grasping their machetes while vigilantly watching the surroundings. Any slightest movement or sound would be noticed by them immediately. "Brother Mole, how long will it take for boss to arrive here?" asked one of the youths in a low voice after he leaned toward Lu Hao. "They should have just left and boss must be bringing quite a lot of our brothers with him now," replied Lu Hao grimly. "No matter how many security guards the Everlasting Feast Hall has, they will be nothing but flies who will beg for mercy by then. Those bastards, humph. If it wasn't for the sake of not alerting them, the four of us would have been broken in and captured those two already." "We're boss men, Brother Mole." The youth proudly grinned and said, "Who doesn't know Boss Guafugue's name in the whole Jingmen Island? Just relying on the security guards of the Everlasting Feast Hall, yet they dare to fight us? I don't think they can even fart if we break in to catch some people." Lu Hao just lightly smiled at his words. He was very content with his current life. As the top lieutenant of Boss Fugue, he was respected by a lot of people. He may have been nicknamed as Mole, but nobody really dared to trample this rat whatsoever. Over the years, he had been enjoying a good life and always got what he wanted, be it money or women, proving how comfy and easy his life was. "Who is it?" Suddenly, Lu Hao's face drastically changed and a shocked look burst in his eyes. He was a capable fighter himself and had been practicing Sonda freestyle boxing for 20-odd years. Normally, just 7-odd experienced gangsters were not enough to defeat him, yet he wasn't able to notice some people approaching him in the dark. In a flash, the other three youths raised their machetes and quickly gathered around Lu Hao, glaring at the light outside the shade of trees. Under the streetlights 5+ meters away from them, Mo, with hands crossed behind his back, was followed by 4 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Their killing aura had locked the 4 men. "You still ask as if you didn't know, huh? You've tracked us here, yet you still ask who we are. What stupidity is that? So tell me, from which group of rascals and thieves are you? How dare you follow us and spy on our restaurant?" asked Mo lightly. Upon hearing the question, Lu Hao's stiff body suddenly relaxed with a contemptuous look gleaming in his eyes. He stood up and walked out of the dark shades of the trees and sneered. "Ha! You're really the people of the Everlasting Feast Hall, including that kiddo? Why didn't he come with you? Man, things won't end up peacefully judging from your words, will it?" Mo shook his head and vaguely said, "Just tell me, who are you and why are you following us?" Lu Hao rolled his eyes and observed Mo and the 4 core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall instead. He then shook his head and said, "Looking at your burly physiques and all, you're all look but no bite. I believe you'll know about it soon, but only bad luck will await you by then." Mo slightly furrowed his brows and ordered in a deep voice, "Capture them. We'll interrogate them later." Whoosh. Whoosh. 2 stalwart middle-aged men appeared in front of the 4 men in a flash. Their movements were very precise and neat as they used palm strikes to hit the 4 men's neck and directly stun them. At this sight, Mo rolled his eyes and couldn't help chuckling. I thought you were all great experts or something. To think that you're all just shrimps. You got knocked out with one blow, truly disappointing. Drag them in, guys. They must have a purpose for daring to track me and boss here.